It's absolutely freezing in here, but I have to do some grinding and welding and stuff, so I have to do it in here. Now, there's going to be a couple things that I'm going to cover that are only specific to this application right here. I'm going to have some other videos for a different mod that I have in the future. Now, I don't need any structure or like foldability of this. Like, it's always going to be sitting upright. So there's really no point to saving any of this adjustability here to keep this thing foldable. I need to really fix the structure of this thing. Like, you can see that the actual metal bracket is flexing. So I need to add structure to this somehow. Now, in the first one, I'm pretty sure I mentioned how short this is because I had it fully extended. When I'm sitting on this, the top of the wheel is into my forearms. So that means that I need to gain pretty much like from my forearm all the way to my wrist, because when you're sitting flat in the back of the seat, your wrists are supposed to rest in the 10 and 2 position on the steering wheel. That's supposed to be like your comfort zone, because anything closer than that, then you're putting like unnecessary strain on your elbows, and anything further away from that, and you're stressing your shoulders, as well as like a real car instance where if you're sitting close enough to the airbag, then, you know, you could probably die, but fake car. I went and I bought 2 giant pieces of square stock. They were really expensive. They were $35 Canadian each. Next, we're going to dive into this thing and we're going to make new mounting holes for this, because this is literally just held in with duct tape and 1 screw, because none of the screw holes line up with where it is. So all I need to do, mark these holes and drill it out, and then I can use the bolts that it comes with to actually mount this to the plate. And then just for some added structure, I'm going to add a brace so that way it doesn't have as much flex, because when I was originally showing this and I was pulling it back, it has a lot of flex, but it's also moving this a whole bunch. And I figured most of the flex was in here, but if you hold this rigid and then move this, you can see that it does flex. But essentially, my objective is I want to remove as many removable pieces, because the less bolts I have, the more rigid it's going to be. There's going to be less gaps between pieces, and for how thin this metal is, just like a generic bolt is very easily going to squish this metal, and if it's more of a structural piece, that's going to impede the performance. This rig, $150 Canadian, and I spent $70 Canadian on 2 long pieces of square stock, so now I'm at $220 Canadian for the entire rig, and that's only if I use all of the square stock, which is where I'm going to get into with the vertical pedal mount. Also, depending on what order that I'm posting all of these videos, because right now I'm only recording the videos. I haven't actually edited a single one yet, and we're already 2 months into this project, going on 3 months, so I'm going to have like an insane amount of footage, so I don't even know where I am with all of the different things. But if I have not posted this video yet, just completely ignore all of the orange peel. This is being fixed. And if you're wondering why it's this color, there's going to be an entire video on the whole thing. Like every single piece of this entire thing, and every single thing that I've changed, there's a dedicated video on everything. So once I finish this entire project, start getting the videos done, and then start rolling them all out, you will be able to 100% recreate this entire thing if that tickles your fancy. So now I've got to drill some holes, cut some stuff, weld some things, grind some stuff, cry, hate my life, you know, usual. So for my measuring, I'm just going to use both of these pieces because they are the exact same length, and I've already done a 45-degree here, straight across here, and then 45 here. Angle grinder, if you're replicating all of this, don't be a douche. Wear hearing protection, eye protection, because all of this is going to be for nothing if you can't see or hear the game you're playing. Okay, one done, all cleaned up. So now I just have to do the other one. So I have 2 matching pieces, and I can take everything off of this and start getting this prepped, ready to line these up. So I got everything all cleaned up, ready to go. This just goes right in here. So now I can just give that a quick tack, make sure that holds. Take this one for the other side, and that's just gonna go right in there. Once those are tacked up, I'll actually be able to check like the rigidity of this, because it has like a lot of play. So I'm hoping that these braces will give it enough rigidity that that goes away. The amount of structure that is added to this is just absolutely insane by comparison to how it was. It's not even fully welded in yet, and that's it. Like, it's almost completely solid. It has just a tiny little bit of give. So the bolts are completely useless at this point. Like, there's no reason for them anymore. I could even take them out and just like run a tack in the bolt holes just to kind of hold it up. I'll probably still do that just for like future-proofing security, because when I was cutting this, it's like really, really thin steel. Like it was just like hot knife going right through it. Like there was no resistance at all. So they definitely have some kind of like mock-up of steel in China that is significantly weaker than what we have here, because the pieces that I got, both of those pieces weigh more than this entire thing. Plus the diameter of the square stock is also a lot thicker on the inside. Like the outside diameter is the same as these pieces right here. That's why they fit perfectly in here, because I originally got them just to extend it. So for this point right now, I'm just going to finish welding these, and then I'm just going to grind them down all smooth so it just kind of looks like one uniform piece that comes through. And all of this footage can just go on the back burner for a while, and I'll come back to this at a later date, which for you is only going to be a few seconds. So here we are, we're nearing completion. Now for the structure part, this whole section right here on the back, I'm making a complete separate video on this because that's the vertical pedal mount. But for reinforcing the entire thing, these vertical braces that I added after welding everything in place and then welding these in place, instead of using those bolts, it was completely sound. It didn't wobble at all. So this is just adding more structure that wasn't needed, but the structure needed to be there for the vertical pedals. If you bought this $150 China rig, just taking those two braces that connect the front and the back pieces together, and then just cutting those to weld in here, then removing the bolts here, and then welding this as all one piece, like this thing doesn't wobble at all. Like it is completely solid now. As for reinforcing the shifter mount, which you can see, like this thing is solid. All I did was took some sheet metal, which I borrowed from my neighbor's car, and then I just followed this 45-degree angle right here, and I cut it down on a 45-degree angle here, and then it runs all the way along to the edges. So that way the sides and the back have two pieces of sheet metal that are all welded all the way around along the bottom and then here on the top. And then I've even welded it all the way along the back here. So that way this section has two plates of sheet metal, which goes right into the factory mount that was already there. So now this shifter bracket thing is like completely solid. So from the center point on this hole right here, which lines up with this one, this is a perfect square right here. I just went up from there and then I put a bolt in here to actually mount the handbrake to it. I drew a cross point on each side, and then I did the same thing with this corner. I drew the cross points over here, and then I just took a straight edge and I connected all of the lines together. So now I have my perfect little grid, so I just have to drill out these holes, and then this thing is completely done. Well, I mean, it's done for this video. So I'm just gonna drill some pilot holes. Now I can step that drill bit up. All the holes are done. Now we can just take this and get a second joint in our hand so we can get those in there. That's all in. Now I can just put the nuts on the bottom. It's definitely heavier, but it's not like something I can't handle. But I mean, that's pretty much it for this. Like, I added some vertical braces, I got rid of all the bolts and welded everything. I've welded all of the connections all the way around, so everything is now all one piece, no longer adjustable. And the vertical pedal bracket, which again, will have its own dedicated video. Then the modifications to the handbrake, so that way it has lots of structure and it's perfect. Like it literally could not be any better than it is now. I am 100% content with how this came out. I still have to fix one of the bolts on the wheel for the top plate. So this is just kind of like adding in randomly here because I don't really know where it fits. But in the sense of upgrading that rig, when I got this wheel, I got it secondhand, and this screw hole right here was completely stripped out. So I couldn't even tighten the screw in it. So this is the M6 by 1.0 screw that goes in here. And to remedy the issue with the stripped out screw, I drilled that one out bigger, and then I tapped that with an M8 by 1.25. And in the rig, it came with a bunch of extra bolts. So now I have M8 bolts holding it onto the top instead of these little M6 ones. So again, structural upgrade. Now I just have to drill this out and tap that hole to M8, and this thing's ready to put back onto the new structurally sound rig. All right, so that's it. Handbrake is mounted. I got the steering wheel mounted with the new M8 bolt, so now it's more structurally sound than it was, and that was just a repair because one of the holes was stripped when I got it. I still have to do all of the wiring and everything, and I still have to make it like aesthetically pleasing. Like right now it's just functional, but for the most part this is great. Like there's no flex anywhere. This is so good. The only thing that's left is I have to make those middle braces to attach both of the pieces together again, because I used those to make those vertical mounts because the rig was too short. So now I can just size it up for however far I want it to be, and then I can take the remaining piece of square stock that I have, cut it to 2 equal lengths, and then I can just put it right back where the original one was, but longer than it was factory. And then I can just reuse the handle bolts that it came with. I still have some forward and backward adjustability, and as far as it goes for structure, that's it. Like I can stand on this thing. Not that I'd ever need to. It is completely solid. Highly recommend it if you have the skills to do this, or if you know someone who could, because just adding that vertical brace and then welding where the bolts were made a world of difference. It is 100% worth the time and effort that was taken to do that. So hopefully you found something useful here. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already. You can join the members program if you want to help with stuff like this, or don't do any of it. I'm not telling you what to do.